Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. This is News from TechieTechTech, and today I've got a camera review for you guys. This is the Obsbot Tail. The Obsbot Tail is basically like a DJI Osmo Pocket on steroids. It's not your ordinary DSLR or mirrorless camera. It's an AI-powered auto-directed camera. In terms of specs, this camera has a 360-degree 3-axis gimbal and can shoot up to 4K at 60 FPS. This is basically a camera which is mounted on a gimbal, and that gimbal is mounted on the camera body. The Obsbot features this wide horizontal LED. So let's talk about the main feature of this camera. The main feature is the crazy fast and accurate tracking. Yes, the reason why it's called AI directed camera is because the human tracking is so amazingly fast that the other competitors like the DJI Osmo Pocket, any other smartphone gimbals doesn't even come close to this camera's accuracy and speed. Don't believe me? Then watch this. I hope you liked that video. If you want to see more of those clips, there's a link in description. You can watch all of those videos in native resolution on my Vimeo channel. Okay, so moving on to the design, it's like somebody threw a Amazon Echo on wheels and modeled out the Obsbot Tail. I know it looks a bit different from a regular DSLR or mirrorless camera, but it's quite portable when it comes to traveling, This part in terms of portability is that the gimbal locks itself very easily. And the build quality is very good. It's hard shell plastic and very lightweight, so that complements the gimbal motors in terms of speed as well. One thing you'll notice right off the bat is this fan grill. Yes, this camera has a legitimate fan and it runs all the time. And two Type-C USB ports, one is for charging, one is for data transfers, and a micro SD card port. The micro SD card port supports up to 128 GB of class 10 cards. There's also the power button and there's also a mic input. Okay, so one thing that bothered me during the review was it has no inbuilt mic. You'll need to use an external mic. So I've tested this with a bunch of different mics. I tested it with the Shure mic that I'm currently recording right now. I tested this on my Saramonic V Mic Mini and the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus, and it worked perfectly. One thing that was missing was the audio meters. Okay, so there are two ways you can operate this camera. One is by using the gestures. There are a bunch of gestures like turning on tracking and zooming in, zooming out, crazy pans and everything. Then there's the recording on and recording off gesture. And the second way you can control it by using the app. The app is available for both iOS and Android. And obviously the Android app isn't as good as the iOS, but it still gets the job done. The app has a lot of other features like taking 12 megapixel pictures, shooting time lapses, slow motion recording, changing the resolution and the frame rates. One thing that I believe all of you guys would appreciate is that it has a portrait mode. Not one of those portrait modes that you find on these smartphones every day. The portrait orientation mode. When you click on it, the whole footage will go into portrait orientation, something like this. The app also has a bunch of filters or looks. They aren't exactly what you call LUTs. Also, this camera cannot shoot log, but those filters are pretty decent if you're a vlogger. One thing I really loved about this camera's app is it has a manual mode. That means I can adjust my shutter speed, my ISO levels, and my exposure levels. Although there is no option to adjust the aperture since it is fixed, but still it's a pretty good feature when you're trying to target the prosumer category. In terms of technical features, this camera features a Hoya 3.85 to 13.4mm lens, which is equivalent to 24 to 84mm, and the f-stop is from 2.4. This lens is fixed, you cannot change this lens, and there are no rings around it. That means you won't be able to use any of your existing or third-party ND filters. Coming to the sensor, it features a Sony CMOS 0.53-inch sensor, which is said to be the same as that on the DJI Osmo Pocket, but there's still no confirmation about it. The Obsbot Tail can shoot in a lot of different resolutions and at different frame rates. There's the PAL, there's NTSC, and there's also a film option if you want to go pro. In terms of performance, the gimbal is pretty good. It is complemented by the lightweight hard shell plastic for tracking subjects. Moving on to the image quality, this can shoot 12 megapixels still. They're really good when you're shooting outside, but when you step inside and you zoom in, you'll tend to notice a lot of noise. Okay, so moving on to the video quality of this camera. Like I said, this camera can shoot up to 4K at 60 fps and 2.7K and full HD in slow motion as well. But in terms of performance and the overall image quality of the videos, I would say it's a 7 out of 10 if you're shooting indoors, and it's an 8 out of 10 if you're shooting outdoors. You can have a look at the samples, but if you want to see the real quality of those videos, you can head down to the description and you'll be able to see a bunch of different clips in the native resolution. The maximum bitrate is 60 Mbps, and this thing can record in H.264 and H.265. Since it has a small sensor, that means the low light performance won't be that good. So when I tested it, yes, there was a decent amount of noise, but one thing that blew my mind was the tracking capabilities wasn't that much affected by the low light conditions, and that I believe is a very good thing considering the sensor size and the camera size. The Obsbot Tail has a 1x4-inch thread mount on the bottom and a rubberized grip for better stability. It also has a bunch of other accessories like a mini tripod, an external mic, separate carry case and whatnot. So if you want to learn more about those accessories and more detailed specs, you can head over to the link in description. So one thing I would like to address in this video is, who is this camera meant for? Who is the target audience? I reviewed this camera very thoroughly, and from the perspectives of both a casual user like a vlogger or someone, and from a professional like a filmmaker. If you're a casual user, or if you're looking to just upgrade your camera or buy something else, I would recommend this camera at $700, because like the name of the camera says, it is an artificial intelligence powered auto director camera. That means you won't have to touch the camera. All you can do is just use your phone or just use those gestures, and it will start recording and taking pictures. And from the perspective of a professional, I would say this is definitely not a replacement for your current setup, but this can definitely act as your assistant on a shoot. You can basically use it as your behind the scenes camera and as your third camera for shooting a subject which is moving and you don't have an operator available. So the possibilities are endless, and like I mentioned in the technical specs, this has a film mode. That means you won't have to worry about the resolutions, frame rates and white balance and everything. In case you want to learn more about this camera, the pricing and availability, you can head over to the link in description. If you have any questions regarding this camera or anything else, feel free to share those in the comments. We'll be happy to get back to you. We also did a very detailed blog post on this camera review, so there's a link in the description for that as well. Thank you for watching this video, and subscribe maybe.